Zach, preseason polls are a sham, and Big Ten coaches at Media Days in Las Vegas, as Adam Rittenberg tweeted, want them gone. Thank you. Somebody finally said it. And I know the Big Ten said a lot of stuff that's going around like crazy. People think it's crazy. I don't agree with all of it. Just put it out there for what's said. But they're absolutely right on this one. Preseason polls like the AP poll, and I'll even take it a further step. Preseason ratings and metrics like ESPN, FBI, and SP Plus are guesswork dressed as gospel, right? They're skewing strength of schedule metrics and warping college football debates. These rankings built on hype, not evidence, overvalue or undervalue teams before a single snap is even taken. It's not just an anti-SEC thing, okay? I'm going to give you some examples. It's been happening for decades. Let's go all the way back to 1984. Zach, all right? You were just a wee little lad back then. 1984.
I was not born.
You were not born. Yeah, you were so wee. For example, BYU beat a number 3 Pitt team that finished 1-7-1, and they were early ranked in their win over BYU schedule, or BYU inflated it, helping them snag a huge boost there, right? Preseason darlings like Utah and Arizona flopped, while unheralded Arizona State won the conference last year, but struggled for respect due to low preseason expectations. And they almost beat Texas. They almost took down Texas. The problems are that the preseason rankings skew our view of the teams before the season even begins, and even more importantly, they feed into strength of schedule calculations which don't fully adjust as the season unfolds. All right, unlike basketball's net, which ditches preseason metrics mid-season, they are completely done with preseason metrics by mid-season. Football's strength of schedule metrics cling to it for most of the season, and for some, they never get rid of it. They never take it out of the equation. In terms of strength of schedule, teams ranked 20th to 35th are often just totally interchangeable. If you look at the numbers, there's not really that much of a difference. Yet beating a number 25 team pads your strength of schedule more than beating a number 40 team, despite little difference. Tom Fornelli actually talked about this. He nailed it on the Cover 3 podcast. The gap between the 25th and the 75th strength of schedule is often just like one game. Right? Say, a 7-5 team versus a 5-7 team. Is there really that big of a difference? Not usually. And it's the same thing for schedules that are ranked 1 through 25 as well. It's negligible. But fans and playoff committees treat it like it's scripture, like it's the Bible, and the college football playoffs wisely waits until November to rank them. But even then, they have been influenced by the rankings. They've been influenced all year by the lean toward the strength of schedule, tainted by preseason bias. In fact, just get rid of the AP top 25 anyway, right? It's useless. Zach, we don't need the AP top 25 rankings to do anything for us. All they do is they put little numbers next to team names on the TV. It's literally all they do, and people treat it like it's the most important thing out there. Zach, your thoughts on the Big Ten wanting to obliterate preseason rankings?
I just want to applaud you for
thank you
your speech, your delivery there. It was.
I try.
I mean, someone might say that it was gaslighting, though.
Me?
Yeah. So, Stuart Mandel was like,
Stewie.
This is Project
He's going to do a Twitter poll on me, Zach.
Planet Gaslight.
Did you hear that at the Big Ten Media Day? When he said to Tony Petitti, I did a Twitter poll. You dummy. I'm sorry. I don't want to call, people. I typically say that people's actions are dummy or moronic. I don't typically call them a dummy. Stuart Mandel's not a dummy. He's obviously an intelligent person. He has a very good career. But that was one of the stupidest things you could possibly say in a question at a media, right? Like, if I would have said that, if I would have brought up a Twitter poll to Tony Petitti, my butt would have been out the door. They would have kicked me out. But Stuart Mandel says it. It's like, okay. He knows what he's talking about, I guess. That is the stupidest thing I ever heard. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, just stop gaslighting everybody, JR, with facts. No,
hey, that's a compliment, James. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to clip that, put it on Twitter or TikTok or something.
The reality is the reason why we're talking about this, or why the Big Ten coaches are talking about this, why Tony Petitti is talking about this,
and administrators too. It's
and
not
administrators,
just the coaches.
Like they're talking about it because what has been the talking point on the other side that they're responding to, which is the SEC is trying to make the point that they want more subjectivity because they know all the subjective measures, aka preseason polls, are going to slant in their favor. And so all the Big Ten is doing is saying, you're being subjective. Let's be objective. That's why they want automatic qualifiers. That's why they want to equalize scheduling. That's why they want an even playing field. And you want to know why they want an even playing field? Because they know they hold more money, they have more TV markets, and they're going to win in the long run because they've played chess while everybody else plays checkers. Okay? So this is the reality of this, is that the Big Ten, they're just making good arguments. And yes, that includes the preseason poll going away, because all the preseason poll does is it tells us who media people think are going to be the top 5 teams. Remember when they thought Florida State was a top 10 team a year ago? Like, they were awful.
And there are some strength of schedule metrics that still had them a top 10 team by the end of the season. They were 2-10, Zach. And there were strength of schedule metrics out there that said, well, people played them when they were number 10 team in the nation. Like, what? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
They don't adjust.
Train wreck. They were a train wreck.
It's mind-boggling, man.
Yeah, they weren't even here's the thing. They weren't even a competitive 2-10 team. Like, right. It'd be one thing if they were
Cal, and that was it.
Yeah. And that's the issue with the preseason poll is I understand why a preseason poll does matter. And people will argue about this. And I think there's merit to it, that a preseason poll, it allows you to evaluate. It does help you. It helps you.
I got no problem
understand
with that. I got no problem with like individual people doing preseason polls, right? Like here's my top 25 teams that I think are out there, right? If somebody in the media wants to do that. But to get all the media together and be like, all right, let's get the AP top 25 together, and we're going to put it on TV and make it.
They're the worst people. They're the worst people to do it because they're biased for their region typically and their team, and B, they don't know ball like coaches do, like analysts do. And that it's just, I think the whole system is flawed. And the thing that we have been like, we on our program, but also I think what we've been longing for across college sports is objectivity. Like, we need objectivity. That's the key, which we're getting more and more of with the playoff system. But we have to keep fighting for that, because otherwise we're going to continue to think, well, Alabama's just better. Why? Because that's not a good reason. It's never been a good reason. But finally, people are saying that can't be the reason why someone gets in the playoff.
Yeah, precisely. Billy says, great points, JR, but none of that is going away. No, you're completely right. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we can make all the points in the world and we can make great points, but they're not getting rid of it. It drives up ratings. It helps with, clicks and everything else. So they're not getting rid of it, unfortunately. But, and I think that's probably why the Big Ten wasn't up on stage vying for it, is because they knew, like, this isn't going away. The other stuff they knew had a chance, right? Talking about scheduling, talking about playing games and stuff like that. But the other stuff, yeah. And DK is paying my swear jar for me for saying dummy. Thank you, DK. I couldn't afford the swear jar tonight, so I appreciate you doing that. So,
wow.
All right. So I just like, the Big Ten said a lot of stuff at Big Ten Media Days, and it took a lot of people by storm. Obviously, Curt Cignetti said what he said about, we're just going to adopt SEC strength of scheduling. It is so mind-boggling to me how people can't count. It is so crazy that Curt Cignetti talks about, well, we're only going to play 3 group of 5 teams in the out-of-conference, and be like, well, it's such a weak schedule because you don't play an out-of-conference P5 teams. No, we're playing 9 just like everybody in the SEC is, because the SEC has 8 conference games and they do a good job. Most of them, I think all of them. I think there's maybe only 1 or 2 teams that plays 4 G5 teams this year. But they do a good job of playing an out of conference team that's a P5, P4, or better. But even then, the SEC and the Big Ten are not regularly playing out of conference schedules. So you're getting a SEC team playing typically like a lower level ACC team. Last year, Tennessee played NC State. Ole Miss played Wake Forest. Is that really all that much different than Tulane? No, it's not. It's not. And so you working that into it as well. But the preseason poll thing, it would fix so much bias. It would fix so many issues because even though people want to say, oh, the College Football Playoff Committee doesn't rank until week, 10? They're still influenced the entire time. Look at the very first college football playoff rankings compared to the AP poll that comes out at that time. It's nearly identical every single time. There's they might have a few teams off here and there, but it's their guide, and all they do is they go through and I think this team might be a couple spots higher.
Yep,
that's all it is. So, oh man, all right, Zach, any more on preseason polls before we move on to the next segment?
I'll just finish with this. I think it's out of line the way that, and I already mentioned his name, but I think it's out of line in general for the way that some of these media personalities are trying to villainize some of these administrators. Curt Cignetti is getting a lot of garbage, and granted, he's probably not the one that should have spoke with him backing out of the Virginia series, but for him to get crushed the way he is right now for saying what he said about the SEC, and then you look at the Indiana schedule, and everybody will laugh at the first 3 games. They got to play Illinois, at Iowa, at Oregon, at Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan State. Those are all probably at least bowl teams. And you're talking about Penn State, who went to the playoff a year ago. You're talking about Oregon, who was the number 1 team in the country for most of last year. You're talking about Illinois, who we think is going to be a Big Ten contender. We're talking about Iowa, who is always kind of lurking around. We're crushing him for backing out of Virginia so he can get a home game. But he's got 4 or 5 legit teams on that schedule. Last year was an aberration. It's just absurd to me. And Cignetti sometimes speaks out of pocket, and I think it's the way he said we just beat top 25 teams. That was a point where he needed to shut up because they don't. But this was not I don't understand why he's getting just crushed for what he said about the SEC when he has a legit hard schedule this year.
Yeah, I think it's strength of schedule 50th or something like that. But you go look at his schedule compared to, like I said, the 25th schedule in the nation, it's not all that much different. He plays 2 huge, contenders in the conference. He plays 2 other teams that are kind of on the brink of contention, but you would probably say are second or third tier. And then you have some other teams in there as well, 1 or 2 that are, I wouldn't say cupcakes, but a little bit easier. And then you have a team like Wisconsin where you watch, you watch this season. If Wisconsin goes 6-6, they will never be talked about the way that Florida was last year. Florida was 6-6 last year, and people wanted to throw them a championship parade and said they deserve to be a top 20 team in college football. Absolutely ridiculous kind of stuff, right? But that schedule was so difficult, and don't get me wrong, it was difficult, but that schedule was so difficult that if you're 6-6, you're a top 25 team. No, you're not a top 25 team if you're 6-6. And you best believe if Wisconsin goes 6-6 this year, I'll be vying for the same thing. I'll be saying, oh yeah, Wisconsin, that's a top 25 team. And people will say, oh no, they're Wisconsin, they suck. Yeah. It's no.
You're going to say it again.
No, it's not true. So, yeah. Philip with a good comment here. He said back end of the rankings are established to push up the SEC. And it's true. You might see 1 or 2 Big Ten teams there at the back end of the rankings, but guess what? They play an extra conference game. right? So a
Mhm.
lot of these back end of the conference teams that are Big Ten teams are 4-2 or 4-3 because they've typically played a powerhouse in the conference by then, and the SEC teams are 5-2, 6-1, and they're like, oh yeah, this SEC team 5-2, even though they played 4G5 teams or 3G5 team in a Wake Forest, yeah, they're a really good team. We better put them in the top 20.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's completely right, Philip.
Mhm.
All right, glad we're all on the same page. All right.
Yep.